The moment you feel someone pulling away, your instinct might scream at you to do something. You want to send that extra text, plan something special, remind them why they like you in the first place. You might start replaying every moment in your mind, searching for what went wrong, wondering if you missed a sign, if you could fix it, if you could just do one thing to bring them back. But I need you to understand something crucial. Chasing will only push them further away. Think about the nature of attraction. We are drawn to confidence, to people who have a sense of self-worth, who don't need validation from anyone else to feel whole. The second you start chasing someone who is pulling away, you send the opposite message. You tell them, I need you to feel okay. You tell them, I will abandon my own standards, my own life, just to keep you close. And that energy isn't attractive, it's desperate. And desperation repels. Now, I know what you're thinking, but if I don't do anything, won't I lose them? And I get that fear. It's real. When you care about someone, the thought of losing them is terrifying. But let me ask you this. Do you want to be in a connection where you have to constantly chase someone just to keep them there? Do you want to be in a dynamic where their presence depends on your ability to convince them to stay? That's not love. That's not connection. That's you trying to hold on to something that may not be right for you. The irony is that the moment you stop chasing, you actually give them space to feel your absence. If someone is unsure about you, if they are questioning how they feel, the worst thing you can do is smother them with reassurance. Because now you're not giving them the opportunity to miss you. You're not allowing them to come to the realization on their own that they value you, that they want to be with you, that they don't want to lose you. You're making the decision for them by refusing to let them feel what it's like to be without you. This is where true confidence comes in. You have to be willing to say, I want you in my life, but I'm not going to beg for it. I care about you, but I will not sacrifice my dignity to keep you close. That mindset is powerful. That mindset shifts the energy, and suddenly, instead of chasing, you are standing in your worth. And when you stand in your worth, you become magnetic. Here's what I want you to do instead. When you feel them pulling away, take a deep breath and remind yourself, my value is not determined by their presence or absence. Then redirect your focus. Pour that energy into yourself. Go out, engage in activities that bring you joy. Spend time with people who uplift you, not to make them jealous, not as some manipulative tactic to get their attention, but because your life is not dependent on their interest. Your happiness is not something they get to control. What happens when you do this? One of two things. Either they realize that they miss you, that they want to be part of your life, and they return on their own terms, at which point you get to decide if they are showing up the way you need them to, or they continue to drift away. And that tells you everything you need to know. Because if someone can walk away from you and never look back, they were never truly invested in the first place. And I know that's painful. I know it's hard to accept. But let me tell you, the person who is meant to be with you will not need to be chased. The person who truly values you will not need convincing. Real love doesn't require you to lose yourself. And the second you start chasing, you are sacrificing parts of yourself in the hopes that it will make someone else stay. So, when you feel them pulling away, don't chase. Hold your ground. Let them go if they need to go. Because the right person will never need you to prove your worth. They will already see it. When someone pulls away, the instinct is to react, to lean in, to ask what's wrong, to overcompensate. It's a natural response because when we feel something slipping through our fingers, we want to tighten our grip. But let me tell you something, gripping harder doesn't keep things from slipping away. If anything, it accelerates the process. The more you try to hold on, the more they feel the pressure and the more they want out. The solution is not to chase. The solution is to redirect your focus back to yourself. Right now, in this moment, your mind is probably consumed with questions. Why are they pulling away? What did I do wrong? How can I fix this? But let's take a step back. The real question isn't about them. The real question is about you. Because the truth is, when you make someone the center of your world, when your happiness starts depending on their attention, their responses, their validation, You lose the very thing that made you attractive in the first place. Your independence, your energy, your self-worth. Think back to when they first met you. You weren't obsessing over whether they were texting back fast enough. You weren't second-guessing every little thing you said or did. You were just being you, living your life, doing things that excited you, engaging with the world in a way that made you magnetic. That's what drew them in. And now, because they're pulling away, you're abandoning that person. You're making them more important than yourself. And that's the mistake. When someone starts to create distance, the answer isn't to chase, it's to double down on yourself. Not as a game, not as a manipulation tactic, but as a genuine refocusing of your energy. Because here's the truth, when someone pulls away, it's often not about you. It could be their own fears, their own insecurities, their own emotional baggage. But the moment you let their behavior dictate your self-worth, you hand over your power. And that's not a position you ever want to be in. So, what do you do instead? You invest in you. You shift that energy back into your own life. Maybe that means reconnecting with hobbies you've neglected, getting back into the gym, spending more time with friends, or even just reminding yourself of the things that make you, you. Think about it this way. When someone pulls away, they're subconsciously testing something. They're testing if you're someone who needs them to feel whole. They may not even be doing it on purpose, but it's happening. And if you respond with desperation, if you start over-texting, over-explaining, over-compensating, you confirm their worst fear, that you rely on them too much. But if instead you hold your ground, if you continue being the person you were before they even entered your life, you send a different message. A message that says, I want you, but I don't need you. That message is powerful, it's attractive, it changes everything. Here's a simple truth. People are drawn to confidence, not arrogance, not indifference, but a deep, unshakable confidence that says, I know my worth. That's the energy you want to cultivate, because when you know your worth, you don't have to chase, you don't have to beg for attention. You simply exist in a way that makes people want to be around you. Now, let's be real. This isn't always easy. When you like someone, when you've invested in them, it's painful to feel them slipping away. It triggers every insecurity, every fear of rejection, every past hurt you've ever experienced. But this is the moment where you either fall into old patterns or you rise above them. And if you can master this, if you can shift your focus back to yourself, instead of pouring all your energy into someone who isn't meeting you halfway, you change the game. Not just for this situation, but for every relationship moving forward. It's not about pretending you don't care. It's not about playing hard to get. It's about genuinely recognizing that your happiness, your fulfillment, your value doesn't come from someone else. It comes from within you. When you understand that, when you live by that, people feel it. And the right people, they won't want to pull away. They'll want to come closer. So if you feel someone distancing themselves, don't panic, don't chase, take a breath, step back, and instead of pouring all your energy into them, pour it into yourself. The right person won't need to be chased. The right person will meet you where you are. When someone starts pulling away, the instinct for most people is to panic. We feel that shift, that subtle withdrawal, and immediately our mind jumps to worst-case scenarios. Did I do something wrong? Are they losing interest? Is this slipping away? And in that panic, we start trying to fix things. We overcompensate. We text more. We check in more. We become hyper-aware of the distance, and in response, we attempt to close the gap. But here's the problem. That very reaction pushes them further away. When someone withdraws, and you lean in twice as hard, it disrupts the natural balance of the relationship. Think about it like a dance. When two people are in sync, there's a rhythm, a mutual flow. But the moment one person steps back and the other lunges forward to fill the space, the rhythm is lost. Suddenly the person who stepped back feels overwhelmed, maybe even suffocated, and they retreat even further. The very thing you're trying to prevent, the distance, is actually being reinforced by your actions. So instead of chasing, instead of trying to bridge the gap yourself, match their energy. This doesn't mean playing games or being cold. It means maintaining your own sense of self-worth and emotional stability. If they pull back, you don't punish them for it, but you don't overextend yourself either. You simply meet them where they are. If they're responding less frequently, you don't double your efforts. You allow that space to exist. This is one of the hardest things to do because it requires self-control. It requires resisting the urge to act on your emotions and instead operating from a place of confidence. When someone pulls away, it's easy to take it personally, but often it's not about you. It could be about something going on in their life. It could be their own fears, their own doubts. But even if it is about you, the answer is never to beg for their attention. The answer is to hold your position with grace. Matching energy doesn't mean shutting down emotionally or mirroring them out of spite. It means adjusting your level of investment based on the effort being reciprocated. If they used to initiate plans often, but now they don't, you don't suddenly take on all the effort yourself. You wait, you observe, you see if they come back to you. And if they don't, that's your answer. That's when you know that instead of fighting for someone to stay, you need to be willing to let go. People value what they have to work for. It's just human nature. If you remove all the effort on their part, if you make it too easy, they stop appreciating what they have. Think about the relationships in your life that you cherish the most. They're usually the ones where there's mutual respect, mutual effort, and a sense that both people are showing up for each other. When someone starts slipping away and you do all the work to keep them there, you take away their opportunity to choose you. And if someone isn't choosing you willingly, why would you want to hold on to that? It's scary to match energy because it means relinquishing control. It means stepping back when all you want to do is step forward. But what's the alternative? If someone is losing interest, chasing them doesn't bring that interest back. It only makes you look desperate. And desperation is the least attractive energy you can bring into a connection. Confidence, on the other hand, is magnetic. Confidence says, I know what I bring to the table. I know my worth. And if you're unsure about me, I'm not going to spend my time convincing you. Sometimes when you match someone's energy, you give them the space to miss you. When someone feels that shift, that you're no longer chasing, no longer trying to hold things together for the both of you, it forces them to evaluate how they feel. And one of two things happens. Either they realize they don't want to lose you, and they come back with renewed effort, or they continue to drift. And while that second outcome might hurt, it's actually a gift. Because if someone is meant to be in your life, you won't have to keep pulling them back in. They'll meet you halfway. Matching energy also builds your own self-respect. It teaches you that you don't have to beg for someone's time or affection. It reminds you that you are enough exactly as you are. And anyone who fails to recognize that, that's not someone you should be chasing. The right person will never leave you guessing. The right person will never make you feel like you have to fight for their attention. They'll show up. They'll meet you where you are. And they'll make you feel valued without you having to prove anything. So when you feel someone pulling away, resist the urge to panic. Resist the urge to fix. Instead, pause, take a breath, and match their energy. Because the people who truly care about you, who truly want to be in your life, will always find their way back, and the ones who don't, they were never yours to hold on to in the first place. I get it. You feel them pulling away, and your first instinct is to reach out, to fix whatever is wrong, to make sure they don't slip further. That anxiety creeps in, that fear of losing them. And so you start to overcompensate. You text more, you check in, you try to remind them of how great things were, how much you care. But here's the problem. When someone begins to withdraw and you push harder, you're not drawing them back in. You're actually reinforcing the distance. See, we have this idea that if we just prove our value, if we remind them how amazing we are, they'll snap out of it. But relationships don't work that way. Think about when you've needed space from someone. If they flooded your phone with messages or constantly asked what was wrong, did that make you feel closer to them? Or did it make you want to retreat even further? Attraction isn't built through pressure. It's built through desire, through a natural pull. The moment you feel the need to chase, you're already moving in the wrong direction. So instead of clinging, take a breath. Acknowledge that something is shifting, but don't panic. The worst thing you can do is start acting out of fear, because fear makes us needy, and neediness is the fastest way to push someone away. Instead of saying, "What can I do to make them stay?" ask, "What do I actually need in a relationship?" Shift the focus away from them and back to yourself. That doesn't mean you pretend not to care. It means you communicate, but you do it in a way that's strong, confident, and not rooted in desperation. If you notice someone pulling away, instead of sending a flood of texts or trying to force connection, simply acknowledge the shift. Say something like, "Hey, I've noticed you've been a bit distant lately. I just want to check in. Everything okay?" And then, here's the key, you leave space for their response. You don't fill the silence. You don't jump in to fix it. You give them room to be honest. Now, sometimes they'll say, "Oh no, everything's fine," when you know it isn't. And that's where their actions speak louder than words. If someone continues to be distant despite your calm and open approach, that tells you something. And here's where most people make the mistake. They hear the words, but ignore the behavior. They convince themselves that if they just try a little harder, things will go back to how they were. But relationships are built on mutual effort. And if you're the only one showing up, you're in a one-sided dynamic that's only going to exhaust you. So instead of chasing, do something counterintuitive. Match their energy. If they start pulling back, you don't push forward. You step back too. You let them experience the space they're creating. And this isn't about playing games. It's about maintaining your self-respect. If someone is truly interested, they'll notice the distance. They'll feel the shift. And if they care, they'll come back toward you. This is why confidence is so important. When you know your value, you're not afraid of giving someone space. You're not afraid of the silence because you trust that if this person genuinely wants to be in your life, they'll show up. And if they don't, that's information. That's clarity, and clarity is a gift, even when it's painful. Here's the truth. People don't pull away from connections they're deeply invested in. If someone is withdrawing, something is going on internally for them. Maybe they're unsure of what they want. Maybe they're struggling with something personal. Or maybe they're simply not as invested as you are. Whatever the reason, your job isn't to fix it. Your job is to take care of yourself, to recognize when your energy is best spent elsewhere. It's easy to romanticize someone when they're slipping away. Suddenly, they seem more valuable, more important, because we're wired to want what we feel we're losing. But don't mistake absence for attraction. Take a step back and ask yourself, am I chasing them because I truly believe in this connection? Or am I chasing them because I'm afraid of being alone? That question alone will change the way you approach relationships. And here's something most people don't realize. When you stop chasing, when you stand in your own value, you actually become more attractive, because now, instead of being the person who's desperately trying to hold on to something, you're the person who is confident enough to say, "I know what I bring to the table, and if you can't see that, I'm not going to force you." That energy is powerful. That energy makes people sit up and take notice, because confidence isn't just about knowing your worth. It's about showing it through your actions. So the next time you feel someone pulling away, resist the urge to grip tighter. Resist the temptation to beg for clarity, to force a conversation they're not ready to have. Instead, give them space. Communicate once, clearly and calmly, and then let them show you who they are. Because the right person, they won't need to be chased. If someone is pulling away from you, the worst thing you can do is make it your mission to pull them back. See, when you chase after someone who is withdrawing, you're subconsciously telling them, "My happiness depends on you staying. My sense of worth is tied to whether or not you choose me." And that's a dangerous place to be. Because the moment someone realizes that you need them more than they need you, the dynamic shift. They don't have to put in effort. They don't have to work to earn your love, your time, or your presence. They already have you locked in, which ironically makes them value you less. Here's the real question. Why are you tolerating behavior that makes you feel uncertain? Why are you accepting breadcrumbs when you're capable of so much more? It's not about blaming the other person for losing interest or needing space. People have their own reasons for their action, but what you have control over is how you respond. And the response that separates the confident, high-value individuals from the ones who constantly find themselves in the cycle of heartbreak is this: they have standards. They know what they bring to the table. They recognize when someone's actions are falling below the level of effort and respect they deserve. And instead of trying to convince someone to stay, they walk away with their dignity intact. Now, I get it. It's not easy. When you feel a strong connection with someone, when you've invested time, emotions, and energy, it's painful to watch them drift away. Your instinct is to fix it, to prove to them that you're worth staying for. But let me ask you something. When has forcing someone to love you ever worked? When has begging for attention ever made someone think, wow, now I really want to be with this person? It doesn't work that way. If anything, it pushes them further away because desperation is never attractive. Confidence is. And confidence comes from knowing that you are not someone who begs. You're someone who attracts. You're not someone who waits around hoping that one day they'll treat you the way you want to be treated. You set a standard, and if they don't meet it, you let them go. Not out of anger, not to manipulate them into coming back, but because you genuinely believe that the right person for you will never make you feel like you have to fight for their love. Now, here's the part most people miss. Having standards doesn't mean cutting people off the second they show signs of pulling away. It means observing. It means giving them space to see if they naturally return with effort. If they do, great. If they don't, then you have your answer. But what you don't do is lower your standards just to keep them around. You don't start accepting inconsistent behavior just because you're afraid of losing them. Because what happens then? You teach them that they can give you less and still have access to you. You teach them that your standards are flexible, that you'll adjust them based on how they feel. And the moment you do that, you lose their respect. And more importantly, you lose respect for yourself. Think about the times in your life when you've given someone more chances than they deserved. When you've stayed in a situation that made you anxious, constantly questioning where you stood. When you made excuses for their lack of effort, saying things like, they're just busy, or maybe I'm expecting too much. No, you weren't expecting too much. You were expecting basic effort. And you have to ask yourself, do you want a love where you're always in a state of uncertainty, where you're always the one holding the relationship together? Or do you want a love where you feel chosen, where you feel secure, where you feel like your presence is appreciated, not just tolerated? Because I promise you, when you stop trying to convince the wrong people to choose you, you make space for the right people who will. And the right person is not someone you have to chase. The right person is someone who meets you at your level. They're someone who doesn't make you question their intentions because their actions consistently align with their words. They don't disappear and expect you to be there when they decide to return. They don't take your presence for granted. So the next time you feel someone pulling away, don't see it as a challenge to win them back. See it as an opportunity to check in with yourself. Are you being treated the way you want to be treated? Are your standards being met? And if the answer is no, then you have a choice. You can either keep fighting for someone who is showing you they're not fully in it, or you can redirect your energy towards the people and opportunities that are. And the moment you make that choice, everything changes. Because the most attractive thing in the world is someone who knows their worth and refuses to settle for less. When you feel someone pulling away, your mind immediately jumps to panic mode. It starts telling you stories. What did I do wrong? How do I fix this? What if I lose them? And before you know it, you're operating from a place of scarcity. You believe that this person is the only source of love, connection, and happiness available to you. And when you think that way, you naturally start gripping even tighter, desperately trying to hold on to something that's already slipping. But here's the truth. Love is never built on fear, and attraction never grows from desperation. The moment you believe someone is your only shot at happiness, you give away all your power. You stop showing up as your best self. You begin over-analyzing their every word, their every action, trying to decode what they mean, what they're feeling, whether they still want you. And that energy, clinging, needy, uncertain, is exactly what pushes them further away. It doesn't matter how much value you bring to the table. If the energy you're putting out is one of fear, you'll never create the kind of relationship you want. So what do you do instead? You shift your mindset from scarcity to abundance. You remind yourself that this one person, no matter how amazing they are, is not the only person in the world capable of making you feel loved. You remind yourself that love doesn't come from one individual. It comes from within you, from the way you live your life, from the way you show up in the world. The moment you internalize this, everything changes. Think about the times in your life when you felt truly attractive. Chances are, it wasn't when you were obsessing over someone's texts or second-guessing your worth. It was when you were out there, living, engaging, doing things that made you feel passionate and alive. Maybe it was when you were fully focused on your work, pursuing a goal, or having an incredible time with friends. That energy, the energy of someone who is content within themselves, is magnetic. People are drawn to those who aren't seeking validation, but instead radiate a quiet confidence, a certainty that their life is full, no matter who chooses to be part of it. You have to remind yourself that attraction isn't about convincing someone to stay. It's about showing up as your best self and letting them make the choice. And if someone is pulling away, let them. Give them the space to feel your absence. If they come back, it's because they chose to, not because you chased them. And if they don't, then they were never meant to be in your life in the way you wanted. Either way, you win. Either way, you keep your self-respect. So the real work isn't in trying to get them back. It's in making sure you don't lose yourself in the process. This is where abundance mindset comes in. When you believe there is an unlimited supply of love, connection, and opportunities, you don't react to one person's distance as if it's the end of the world. You remind yourself that your worth isn't defined by someone else's attention. You remind yourself that the right people who truly value you, don't need to be chased. They naturally gravitate toward you because they recognize what you bring to the table. This is why it's so important to cultivate a rich, fulfilling life outside of your romantic relationships. The more you invest in yourself, your passions, your friendships, your growth, the less power you give any one person to dictate your happiness. And ironically, that's exactly what makes you more attractive. When someone sees that you are perfectly capable of being happy with or without them, they respect you more. They are drawn to you because you represent strength, confidence, and a life they want to be part of. Think about it this way. Imagine you're walking through a marketplace and you see a vendor desperately trying to sell something. They're shouting at you, lowering their price, pleading with you to buy. It doesn't make you want to buy from them. It makes you question whether what they're selling is even valuable in the first place. Now picture another vendor who simply displays their product confidently, knowing its worth. They're not chasing you down. They know people will recognize its value and come to them. That's the kind of energy you want in your relation. You don't need to convince anyone of your worth. You just need to embody it. And let's be honest, when someone pulls away, it's easy to get caught up in what's missing. It's easy to focus on what you had, on the attention, the affection, the security they provided. But what if, instead of focusing on what's lost, you shifted your perspective to what's gained? What if their pulling away was a chance for you to reconnect with yourself, to double down on your own growth, to explore new connections, new experiences, new possibilities? Because here's what happens when you embrace an abundance mindset. You stop acting from fear and you start acting from a place of choice. You're no longer waiting anxiously for their next move because you're too busy making your own. You're no longer afraid of losing them because you know that your life is already full. You start realizing that love isn't something you have to grip tightly to. It's something that flows naturally to those who are open, confident, and secure in themselves. The reality is, people are attracted to those who make them feel good, And nothing makes someone feel better than being around a person who is self-assured, who is at peace with themselves, who radiates the kind of energy that says, I'm happy whether you stay or go. That's power. That's what keeps someone interested. Not the frantic energy of trying to hold on to them, but the quiet confidence of knowing you don't have to. So if you feel someone pulling away, don't chase. Instead, use that moment as a reminder to center yourself, to build the kind of life that excites you, to become the kind of person that doesn't just attract love, but naturally inspires it. And when you do that, you'll realize you never had to fear losing anyone. Because the right people, the ones who truly see you, will always find their way back. And the ones who don't, they were never meant to stay.